obviously last season where he fell off the rails a little bit, and I agree with what you said actually a little bit earlier, Matt. I think giving him the captaincy was not the right thing to do. He's not a captain, not every player is, not every player is, but he was given, and I think that really sort of held him back. So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. And there's no doubt over the summer period there's been a lot of change to the Birmingham City squad. We've seen a lot of new players come in. But we've also got a couple of players that were there last season. They were there in the Championship with us. They were there at the club got relegated. And there's two players in particular that we want to discuss briefly in this podcast, and that's Ethan Laird and Dion Sanderson. They're players that clearly have got plenty of ability, but sometimes get mixed responses from the Blues fans. So that's what we want to discuss really, and ask the question, Matt, do you think their best is yet to come?
Well, I think both players have really bright futures, and I wanted to Google this before just to get it exactly right. And Laird's 23 and Sanderson's 24, so they're still young. And when I must admit, when I saw their birth, it said 1999 and 2001. I was like, blooming heck, where's the time going? I felt like a bit of an old man. I was like, oh my word. But we've picked these two players for a very specific reason, haven't we, Dad? And you say they do split opinion. There is a lot going around on social media at the moment, but for me, there's a real difference between sort of nasty comments and criticism. Because, being a professional footballer, you are on a significant amount of money. You're in the public eye. You live a life that most of us as young kids dream to live. Criticism comes with that part of the job. When me and you are walking back to the car, Dad, and we say, Laird had a bad game or Sanderson had a bad game, that's part of the Blues fan experience. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of criticism. That's part of the job, in my opinion, and a footballer should take that on the chin as constructive, and footballers are aware of it, aren't they? They know when they've had a bad game and they want to improve. The manager lets them know, and I think as part of the fan base, Dad, you might be having a pint with your friend in the pub and you're talking about a player and the strengths to his game, the weaknesses to his game and where he can improve. And giving a fair criticism or a critique is part of football.
Yeah.
But then there's the other side, and I've been seeing some, I think, unnecessary and quite nasty comments on social media recently. And I was just, before we get into the ins and outs of Laird and Sanderson, I just think, let's get behind the team. Last season got so toxic so quickly. We had the Rooney era, and then on top of that, we got relegated. It really was the cherry on the top of a poor season, wasn't it? So, but now we have, the owners were there last season, but the owners have pumped so much money into the club. We've got Chris Davis. We're winning games. We've sold more season tickets than we have in recent times. Let's leave all that behind us now. Let's push forward as a team, as a fan base. Let's get behind the players. Let's support them. And again, that's not me saying let's not critique our players. Opinions are valid. That's the beautiful thing about football. You might think someone had a good game. I might think someone had a rubbish game. We can still shake hands and have our differences of opinions. I'm not saying that, but the whole sort of negativity and jumping on the bandwagon, let's try and put that behind us.
Yeah, I think as well that we've got to bear in mind that everybody is entitled to an opinion. We respect that on this channel. You'll know that from the comments. We allow people to express their views as long as they're not aggressive or abusive. People can say what they want, really. And these players, they're Birmingham City players. They're wearing the blue and white shirt. And every player is going to go through phases in their careers, in their seasons, and even from week to week, where they're going to have off games, they're going to make mistakes, because we all make mistakes in our life. We're not footballers, but we make mistakes in our lifestyle. But as you said, the difference with them is that they're in the public domain and everything gets analysed and criticised. But the thing that really gripes at me is that, the nastiness I don't like. There's no need to be nasty and aggressive to people. You don't need to be. You can still give your opinion without being abusive and without being, completely demoralising the person. Because at the end of the day, these might be highly paid footballers, but they're also human beings as well. They've got friends, they've got families, and they're entitled to the benefit of the doubt as well. Now, we're going to get onto these two players individually. We'll look at them individually in a minute, but I like both of them. That's my opinion. I think that they're good players. I'm glad they're in our squad. I really am. And I think that under Chris Davis, I think he's going to get the very best out of them. I think these two players over this season and going forward are going to surprise a lot of Blues fans, in my opinion, because I think they have got the ability to be able to do it.
Agreed. Yeah. And, Dad, I mean, in that spirit, should we crack on and talk about the actual players in question then? So, I mean, I agree, by the way. I really like Ethan Laird, and fair enough, if you've watched this podcast for a time, haven't been a huge Sanderson fan off the back of last year, but we can talk about Sanderson in this video and the reasons why. And, I think he didn't benefit from all the disruptiveness. The captaincy for me was given to him too early, all these different things. But we'll get into that when we talk about Sanderson.
We'll come on to him in a sec.
But for me, Ethan Laird is a great player. I always remember, Dad, me and you were on the coach home from Bristol City away last season. Do you remember? And he only played half the game.
Got injured.
Yeah. That was the story of Ethan Laird last season, unfortunately, wasn't it? And Bakuna had to go in right back in that game.
Yeah.
But I remember being on the coach on the way home, Dad, me and you, and we were talking. We were saying, what a player. His pace, the way he got up the pitch, his aggressiveness, putting in a challenge. We were really impressed. And I feel like that has continued. I've always liked Ethan Laird. I think he's a really good right back. But I just want to reference something, Dad. And last season, obviously, because of Laird's injury proneness, we had another right back come in called Cody Drama.
Yeah.
And we liked Drama, didn't we? We thought he was a very good player. And I think the reason why we thought Drama was a good player was because he had and chipped in more with assists, and he had a bit more to his game and dynamicness going forward. He could put a cross in, he could get the assist. He benefited and contributed more to goal contributions. And to me, this is where Laird is missing in his game. I think he's a good defender. He's quick. He can get up the pitch. That final product is just missing. I think all Blues fans will admit that, won't we? But even the game against Wycombe, Dad, Blues got it in slow motion from the marketing team. That touchdown.
That was amazing.
That chest down for the first goal Alfie May equalised. That was just fantastic.
You can't appreciate that until you see what he actually did. He actually jumped to get that, to chest it down and to control it like that. That shows you the ability this chap's got, But like you said, I think that the criticism comes from the fact he doesn't have enough end product at the moment. But you've got to bear in mind that since Chris Davis has came in, he's a right back, Ethan Laird. But if you look in that right back position, he's never there. He's always up the pitch. Yeah. He's always playing as a wing back and actually as on the forward right side.
In fact, if you look at Wycombe's goal, he was nowhere to be seen because he was part of the build-up in the attack. It was Clara that had to come over and cover from centre half. And this is, I guess, one of the downfalls to that really intense high press is that sometimes it leaves us vulnerable. But you're right, Dad. He's more playing like a really attacking right winger, isn't he?
Yeah.
In this formation with Davis, especially in possession.
Yeah, I think he's a quality player, and I do think that he has got pace. He needs to be more confident, I think, in with his pace to actually sort of just go round players, because he can do that. And I think maybe with him it could be a confidence thing. He's a likeable character as well. He always seems to be one that's laughing and joking, and I can see him being affected by criticism like this because obviously he's the type of character that's jovial and and that's all fine and dandy, but ultimately it's what he does on the pitch that he'll be judged upon. And I think he's got everything to be a absolutely top quality player, and I don't think we're seeing the best at him. But going back to the question or the title of the podcast, is the best to come? Absolutely for him. Okay. And under Chris Davis, I think we're going to see him improve. And one thing that's going to make a massive difference, and already has, is Alphonse Samson is coming behind him.
Samstead,
sorry.
Yeah.
Samstead is coming behind him.
Competition.
It's competition. He needed that. And you can see from the Charlton game to the Wycombe game, he looks to me like a different player.
I think Chris Davis is the man to manage him as well.
Yeah.
In that style of football that we're playing, he's going to get a lot of chances to round off that end part of his game with the final ball, and that will come. With me and you, Dad, we keep talking about we're a team at the moment. It's a completely different Birmingham City. We are not used to seeing this style of football. For a positive, by the way, brilliant what Chris Davis is doing, and Laird is part of that, and his end product will get better with time. Like once we click, once we gel, once Laird gets his end product sorted, once various players sort out these little kinks that we have in the team, I have no doubt Laird is going to be a top player. And I think on his day, if he's firing on all cylinders, I think he's a high-level championship quality standard of player.
He's got a lot of experience as well. So obviously he's played with us last season in the championship, 25 games he was involved with or started. He was in the championship the season before with Queen's Park Rangers, 32 games. He was with Bournemouth for 6 games in the championship in 21-22. And earlier in the season he was with Swansea at 20 games. And he also had 24 games in League One in 2021 with Milton Keynes Dons. So basically, one of the points I'm making is he's got lots of game experience, at this level, and so to me, he's not like a young player we're trying to bring through now. He's a senior player in the squad now, and I really believe that if we can get Blues fans can actually really get behind him, which we do, most Blues fans do, to be honest. The criticism generally comes outside of the match on social media and stuff like that, and hopefully,
but there are some players. no matter how they play or what they do, they just get criticism.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, he's not completely faultless because, like,
no, he's not. Of course, he's not.
Every player, we go to games, think, he needs to put more effort in, or he's made that mistake. But we say that about every player at some point during the season. But to me, I like Ethan Laird, and I think he's going to be, a top player for our, and hopefully he's at our club a long time as well.
Yeah, and as you said, Dad, he isn't without flaws and he isn't without improvements to his game. And I think one of the big things is that final product. He definitely needs to improve that final delivery. And I think we could score a bag more goals if he ends up improving that. But we saw it against Wickham. He's on the way up. He's improving that. And I can't wait to see what he's got for the rest of the season. But that brings us on to Dion Sanderson, Dad. So I started there with a little bit about last season, about the disruptiveness, possibly had the captaincy a little bit too early. I'm interested to hand it over to you. But what are your general thoughts on Dion Sanderson? Do you think we've seen the best of Dion Sanderson?
No, we haven't. I think that's the thing about our team. Every player's got the potential to build upon. He's definitely one. Again, he's another player I really like. I know that there's mixed opinions in the Blues fan base about Dion Sanderson, but to me, he's shown us he has quality. When we had him on loan initially from Wolves, he was brilliant in his first season with us. And then, obviously, last season where he fell off the rails a little bit. And I agree with what you said, actually, a little bit earlier, Matt. I think giving him the captaincy was not the right thing to do. He's not a captain. Not every player is. Not every player is. But he was given, and I think that really sort of held him back. And then he obviously had the personal issues, which we're not going to discuss on this podcast. Everybody knows what happened with him. And obviously, that disrupted his season as well. And I think that he is a player that has got so much more to give, really more to give, and I think that he will get there. I think he had got sent off against Charlton in the Carabao Cup, which was unnecessary. So he does make these like silly little mistakes, but also as well, like we said with Ethan Laird. He's also now got competition for his place, so that's going to make him a better player. Yeah,
and I think and again, if you've been watching this podcast, especially, we only started it in February, so the back end of last season, he hasn't been my favourite player, Sanderson, and I'm willing to put my hands up and say that, but there's still a player in there. I think the reason why I had a bit of a grudge against Sanderson last year was the whole attitude and the disruptiveness behind the scenes. You could tell that it was affecting him and affecting his game, wasn't it? And he didn't look comfortable being the captain. He didn't look like he wanted to have the armband. He didn't do TV interviews. He didn't do all these different things. So I think that's where it stems from for me. But in terms of as a talent and a quality of a player, there's no doubt there's a player in there, 100%. Yeah. I think I really want to remind Blues fans of those 2 seasons he had prior to last, because he was exceptional, especially that season. When he had Austin Trusty on the left-hand side of him in the Eustace one, we had in that team. That he had an amazing season. So definitely a player in there. And even under Chris Davis, I feel like his management has given him a fresh lease of life. We saw it in the pre-season friendlies. He was pinging those diagonals, and I know once we started the season in the competitive games, it wasn't quite there. But again, it's going to take a little bit of time in the competitive games for these things to gel. He's shown it.
He's shown he can do it.
Definitely.
He's just got to get his range right as well. And actually, when we West Bromwich Albion at home in the pre-season friendly, the fans were singing his name again. So obviously I think the fans are coming around. But like everything, you're only as good as your last game, aren't you? And and this is where he's prone to making these silly mistakes. I mean, he didn't need to sort of pull down Chuck Saniki at Charlton.
It was silly.
It was a silly, but then things are like in a football. It's spur of the moment, isn't it? Once it's happened, you can't take it back. So he's another player that's got so much ability. He is prone to mistakes, but he's a real quality player, and we are very lucky to have him in the squad. I know a lot of Blues fans, will take him or leave him, but I think he's a really important player in our squad. Obviously we've got Bielek and Clara and now Sanderson as centrals. I think also we'll probably bring another one in as well, and that gives us good competition. But that fight for place is going to inspire Dion Sanderson to be the player that we know he can be. And I think again, just like Ethan Laird, just like Ethan Laird, moving forward, I hope he's a player that's with us for a number of years that can really develop. As he matures and gets that sort of more game experience through the various seasons, I think he will learn a lot from that, and I think that will make him an even better player.
I think similar to Ethan Laird, I think Chris Davis is the exact right man to be coaching Sanderson and Laird at the moment to develop their game and bring them to the next level. And a big part of Chris Davis's football is the centre halves doing the diags, isn't it? I mean, our equaliser against Wickham came from Bielek beautiful diag to Laird for that assist, and that's a big part of it. So we've seen that Sanderson's capable of picking and pinging those passes. So as I say, Chris Davis is the perfect man. I think last season was an anomaly where it was all that instability, captaincy a bit too early, a lot of pressure on his shoulders. But what I did like, Dad, and I know it's silly because it's just a social media post, he did come out and say, you know, I've took some time off social media. I've had a chance to recenter and reconnect, or whatever it was. I'm paraphrasing. And, you know, Birmingham City is the place for me. It's always been home. So he did acknowledge there was turmoil on and off the pitch last season. He did accept that. He said he wants to come back all guns blazing. I think that he's got an exciting future ahead. I really do. And I think now there's less turmoil. There's a bit more stability. We have Chris Davis. We have an incredible fan base. I think we're going to see Dion Sanderson fire on all cylinders this season.
Yeah, totally agree. And, you know, he's a player that, just like Ethan Laird, you know, he's 24, Ethan Laird's 23, like you mentioned, Matt. Yeah. And they've got their best seasons to come yet, you know. And again, looking at Dion Sanderson, just like I did for Ethan Laird, look at his experience, you know, 37 games for us last season, 31 the season before. He had 11 at QPR the season before that. That first time he was on loan, he had 15 games. Before that, he was at Sunderland in League One, 26 games. And Cardiff in the Championship, he had 10 games. So he's been around a lot of different clubs and had lots of experience. So, you know, all this is going to come together now. But I suppose my final point I want to make, really, going back to what you said at the beginning, you know, it's about us as Birmingham City supporters appreciating that our players are not, they are human and they are going to make mistakes, but realising that, you know, they are human beings and we need to get behind. That's what will motivate them, is if we actually support them, not trashing them on social media, you know, people hiding behind keyboards and saying horrible things about them. And, you know, that's just not acceptable. I don't want to be associated with that as a Birmingham City supporter. I love Blues. I love the fans. The huge volume of fans are good people at Birmingham City. They're hard, you know, hard-working football club, as we're always known as, and you know, and they're honest. They're honest and genuine, and the vast majority are not going to be taking that approach. So therefore, you know, all I want to say, anybody that puts on a Birmingham City shirt, we support them.
Yeah.
You know.
But and again, I just want to reiterate, Dad, no player is going to escape criticism. Criticism's really important to recognise where you have weaknesses, to recognise where you can improve in your game. And you might have a bad game. You're a professional footballer and a human being. But what's not acceptable is the nastiness and the hatred and some of the... I'm not even going to reiterate some of the comments I have seen because, to be honest, Dad, they're absolutely outrageous. So not saying anything about criticism. It's okay to criticise our team in terms of performances and areas to improve. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But as a fan base, as a club, let's come together now. Let's support our players and let's win League One.
Yeah, it's only divisive, isn't it? You know, any sort of negative, rude, aggressive, abusive, personal comments to players is only going to make them, you know, it's going to make them worse, isn't it? You know, it's going to not just about obviously the way they play, it's also about the way they feel, and it's horrible. And we need to stop that, really. Well, I don't know if we ever will, to be honest, but I just think we just needed to put this conversation out there just to sort of raise awareness that, you know, at the end of the day, we've got two decent players here and we have the power as fans to either encourage them or destroy them.
Yeah, agreed.
One or the other.
And sorry, Dad, because one final point, because I know this is a bit of a polarising topic. If you are going to leave a comment, again, in the same nature we've spoke about, please keep it clean and respectful. And I know, because again, this is a topic which can create quite a bit of emotion around the fan base. So please just keep your comments, as always. You always do, Blues fans. I know you do. I'm just reiterating the importance of respecting the channel's principles as well. Yeah,
so that's what we think about Dion Sanderson and about Ethan Laird, and we'd love to have your comments, what you think about them as well. As Matt's mentioned, of course, you know, please keep your comments, as you always do on this channel, respectful. But we are happy to hear, you know, if you disagree with us, then that's absolutely fine. We have no problem with that at all. You know, everybody is entitled to their own opinion, and we completely and fully respect that. It's the way that you put your opinion about is the issue. So please keep it so that it's it's a comment that is not abusive, aggressive, or insulting in any way. But please be honest and give us your opinion. So we do hope that you like this video, and if you did, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't checked out our other social media channels, then go to our X page, Instagram page, and also now we are also on Spotify, so you can actually listen to the podcasts on that. And the handles for all those will appear on the screen right now. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content all about Birmingham City. And myself and Matt will see you on the next video.